What's happening, YouTube? It's Simon466 Cards, and today we're going to talk about a prediction that I got wrong. Just straight up wrong. And even now, I don't understand how I got it wrong because it's just so confusing to me. The prediction, if you haven't figured it out by looking at the screen, is about the number of cards that PSA grades on a monthly basis. I made a video, I'm gonna say about a year ago or so, where I said that PSA was still working through the tail end of their backlog from the pandemic. It was a big backlog, obviously. And as they worked their way through that backlog and as they finished it up, which was evidenced by turnaround times getting shorter and shorter and shorter, as they finished the backlog, there wouldn't be enough cards to grade to meet the amount of capacity that they'd have built up, right? So obviously that has not happened. You can see the numbers on the screen, they have gone up in the last year. And so they've increased the amount of cards that they're churning and grading each month. And I just don't understand how this is possible. I don't understand how there are 1.4 million cards each month for PSA to grade that makes sense. And more specifically, if we look at sports, because I'm not really a TCG guy, I don't understand how there's 800,000 cards a month to grade in the sports card category. It just doesn't make any sense to me. How are there that many cards that are worth grading? It's so confusing. And so I got this wrong. I don't understand why, so I'm going to dig into it because it doesn't make any sense. Now, the one thing we know is that a large number of cards that go to PSA are from new releases, new products that are printed, manufactured, and released to the public, and there is a big race to get those cards graded and be first to market to sell them in the secondary market on eBay and other places. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the cards being graded by PSA and then sold on the secondary market to see, are they all really that logical in terms of getting them graded? Are they all making money on these cards? And if not, how many of them do not make money and are money losers? So let's get into it. First example we're going to work through is 2023 Prizm Basketball. This was released in late February and early March. And as I make this video on September the 4th, that is about 7 months from when the product was released to current day. And so we've had 7 months of cards to be sent to grading and then be sold on the secondary market. So if we do a quick look on eBay, these are sold listings for 2023 basketball. I have removed draft picks as a product. I've removed WNBA as a product, and I've removed Prizm Monopoly as a product so that we can focus on just 2023 Prizm. On the left here, you can see it's filtering for just basketball, graded, yes, and graded by PSA. These are completed and sold listings on eBay, and I'm looking for sales that ended under 20 bucks. And the reason why it's 20 bucks and not like 15 or 16 is because once you factor in shipping back and forth, the break-even point is actually probably higher than 20 bucks, but I'm going with 20 bucks just to keep it simple. And eBay history holds sales on their sold listings page for 3 months. So in the last 3 months, 5,400 cards from 2023 Prizm Basketball sold for less than $20. That is a lot of money losers. That is that is an unfathomable amount of money losers. And the real interesting part is, well, that's 5,400 cards that sold at a loss, basically. What percentage of that is that number? Like, there's 5,400 sold cards under 20 bucks, but how many total cards from 2023 Prizm actually sold in the last 3 months, right? Because if it's a million, then it's like a drop in the bucket. It doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't really matter. But if it's like double that, then it's like, well, 50% of your cards are money losers. Well, that's not a good idea. That's not a good sign, right? So let's do that. So let's remove this under $20 figure. And so we see now that in the last 3 months, there have been 34,000 cards that have sold from 2023 Panini Prizm. So if we do the math on that, 5,400 divided by 34,000, you can see that the answer is 16% of Prizm cards that were released 7 months ago were sold on eBay in the last 3 months and sold at a loss. That's a bigger number. That's a big number. That's actually bigger than I expected. I was expecting something like 5% would have been my guess, maybe 10%. The fact that it's 16% of a product that was just released 7 months ago are already money losers is a little bit alarming, but also a little bit shocking to me. And I guess maybe that's part of the prediction that I got wrong, because I just assumed people would send in cards that would make sense to grade. But here we are, 16% of cards sent in to be graded and then sold on eBay, sold for less than 20 bucks and lost money. And we will review a checklist later on to see what exactly people are sending in for specific parallels of Prizm. So stay tuned for that at the end of the video. You might have noticed that there was a select card that was included because I didn't exclude select. So what I've done here is reran this exact same thing with select removed, and there are now 4,500. And if we remove this filter, it's 4,500 out of 28,000, which is actually a higher percentage. It's 16.7%. And so while this may not be perfect and there might be some other products that are included, this is sufficient to get the job done. And we'll go back to the video, but that's something I noticed in edit. So I am just wanted to point out that even if you exclude select, it is still the same thesis here. Now, this is a product, Panini Prizm basketball, that was released 7 months ago from when I'm recording this video. So you might be saying, well, that was 7 months ago. Obviously, product has decreased in value over time from release date, because that's obviously when they're at their highest value for most cards. You need to be in the moment and pick a product where it's been about a month or so since the release date, so prices are still at that elevated level where it makes sense for people to send it into grading, because maybe they're selling for $18 now, but when it was first released, maybe it sold for $40 and the person who sent it in for grading actually made some money. So I think that is a fair comment. So what we're going to do now is move over to 2024 Topps Chrome basketball. You can see here, released on July 17th, 2024. Again, I'm recording this on September 4th. So 6 weeks since the product was released, which is pretty close to the release date, especially considering that you'd have to send it into grading, send it back. You probably bulk might have gotten back at this point, but then you have to run an auction. If you choose to run an auction, that's another 5 or 7 days. So I think this is like pretty close to the release date to say that this is a product that we can call recently released. So if we do the same thing that we did, 2024 Topps Chrome, I took out Topps Chrome Black, Bowman, Silver Packs, and this other Stars of MLB Chrome thing that was part of the Topps normal set, the non-Topps Chrome version. And you can see I filtered for baseball, graded yes, PSA, and then under $20. So in the last 6-ish weeks since Topps Chrome 2024 baseball was released, 242 cards have sold for less than $20. Now, I should also point out, given that we're only 6 weeks removed from the release date, I don't know that anybody who would have sent it in at the bulk level, at the lowest level possible, would have gotten their cards back, right? There's probably a bit of a wait time. So some of the cards you're seeing here, or I would say maybe a good chunk of the cards that you're seeing here, might have actually gone in at a level higher than bulk, where the break even probably closer to $30 or something even higher than that, right? So $20 I think is a very, very conservative estimate as to what would count as a break even, right? So 242 total cards from 2024 Topps Chrome in the first 6 weeks after release date sold at a loss. Let's just call it what it is. Under 20 bucks is at a loss to me. Now let's see how many total cards there were that I've sold on eBay from 2024 Topps Chrome. So let's remove this filter. We have 1,400 sales. So if we do that percentage count, 242 divided by 1,400, we get 17%. It's actually higher than the Prizm basketball numbers, which is shocking to me because Topps Chrome, these Topps Chrome cards should bias more to being more expensive because there are a larger percentage that would have been sent in at the high levels and not just at the bulk level. So that's 2 data points, 15, 16% here, 17% here, pretty close in value for newly released major flagship products where roughly 15% of cards are being sold at a loss. And like I said earlier, that is a much bigger percentage than I would have expected. I would have expected for a newly released product, it'd be closer to 5% because of how high values start when products are first released. And yet, here we are, 17%. That's 1 in 6 cards being submitted to PSA that are then sold on eBay are at a loss. That's staggering to me. And like 2 different sports, 2 different products, and yet it's basically the same number. That's crazy. 16%, 17%. What the heck? And so what I've obviously done these numbers in advance, so I knew the numbers that were coming out. What I then wanted to do was dig a little bit deeper on Prizm Basketball and understand what cards are being sent in. So I went to GemRate and their fantastic website where you can pull all this data out. Shout out again to GemRate, as I feel like I do almost 1 out of every 2 or 3 videos. And so I got the full list of cards that have been submitted to PSA. You can see here PSA Basketball Panini Prizm 2023. And GemRate gives you this option. We can export the file to an Excel's file, and I've put it into a spreadsheet to see what exactly it is the people are sending in. And so that is what we're going to move to now. So this is the full Excel spreadsheet of all the different combinations of cards, parallels and player. And this is just for the base set. This has nothing to do with inserts and autographs and patches or any of that stuff. This is just a base 300 card set. I believe it's 300 cards this year, right? No, let's just assume it's 300 cards. Anyways, this is the full breakdown. Now you can see here, Victor Wembanyama, no surprise, has the top 5 spots for their base, Prizm, pink ice, and green Prizm. And so that is not a surprise. He is a possibly once in a generation, once in 2 generation, once in a lifetime talent. And so his cards all make sense to be sent into PSA. There's no debating that. And I would even say that for Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson being the number 2 and number 3 picks, they also make sense to be sent in to PSA. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these players from my analysis because I don't think it makes sense to include these 3 players because I think it actually makes sense to send these players in to be graded. Now, if we look at the parallels, there's base, they're like the most popular and the highest printed, actually, not popular, highest printed parallel, cards with the most print run. If we look at the Victor as a baseline, you can see base, silver Prizm, pink ice, and green Prizm are the highest printed parallels. And if I want to be honest with you, I think these 4 here or these 3 here plus the base, they're irrelevant parallels. They're junk parallels. And in 10 or 15 years, these parallels will not matter. Like, I refuse to believe that a product that has 2,000 to 3,000 plus cards in their print run as a parallel will be relevant given the number of parallels that exist in the Prizm in 5 or 10 years. So these are the parallels that I want to focus on. Base, pink ice, and green Prizm. I'm not even going to include these other ones that I've highlighted in red, which I still believe are junk parallels. Red ice, red, white, and blue, orange ice, hyper Prizm, fast break variation, ruby wave, and pulsar, red seismic, fast break. Like, nobody cares about those parallels as far as I'm concerned. There's so many parallels in Prizm, and these are the most popular one, or the highest printed ones, I should say, and they're irrelevant. They're not relevant as a collectible because there's so many better options. And so those are the parallels that could be included. I've only just focused on base, pink ice, and green Prizm. So let's jump this is what is known as a pivot table in Excel. If you don't use Excel or Excel scares you, basically a pivot table makes it really easy to slice and dice data in a way that makes sense. And so here are the 4, what I'm calling junk parallels, right? The base, green prism, ice, and pink ice, right? Those are the 4 of the 5 highest printed parallels. I'm going to exclude silver because silver has a history with Prism and it's viewed and highly regarded, and so I'm not going to include it because there is a logic to collecting silver. These other 4 doesn't make any sense to me long term. There's no value in any of these things in the next like 5 years or 10 years down the line. And so those are the 4 parallels that we're focusing on. And what I've done here, in the list of players is I have excluded 5 players. I've excluded Victor Wembanyama. I've excluded Scoot Henderson. I've also excluded Steph Curry because he's a very popular player. I have excluded LeBron James for the same reason. And I have excluded Brandon Miller. So there it is. So you can see those are excluded. So excluded Brandon Miller, Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, and then for vets, I've excluded LeBron and Steph Curry. Because those might make the sense send in at a green prism or a pink ice because it's a rookie card or those vets are very popular. If we look at this spreadsheet of all the different players that have been sent in for these 4 parallels, base, green prism, ice, pink ice, this is an insane list of what people have sent in to PSA. Who is Noah Clowney and why are there 37 cards of him being sent in? Who's sending in 14 ice cards and 17 pink ice cards or vice versa for Noah Clowney? Why is this happening? Who decided that was a good idea? Why are we sending in 5 green prism Noah Clowney? Who is Rayanne Rupert? Why are we sending in 15 cards to PSA? Peyton Watson, like a 3rd-year bench player from Denver? What? Who is Seth Lundy, and does anybody outside of his family know who he is? Like, this list is insane. And if you add all of these out, or add all of these up, there's 14,000 of these junk parallels being sent in the first 7 months since Prism was released. This is insane. Like, what are we even doing? Why are let's see here. Like, I'm a Philly fan. I like Ricky Council. I have no idea why you would send these cards in. He's a bench player. That's all he is. What is this? Why are we sending in, 4th year Zion cards of these junk parallels? Who or what is Tristan Vucevic? I've never heard of him, and I consider myself to be a very knowledgeable NBA fan and spectator and whatever you want to call me. Like, who's Maxwell Lewis? Is that a law firm? Like, what is this? Mac McClung? Like, he won a dunk contest, so we're going to send in his cards? What are we doing? Like, you could talk me out of, like, okay, maybe Luka I should have excluded. That's fine. But that's only 200 out of 14,000 that we're sending in. Like, Jordan Hawkins, we're sending 200 of him. Great. He's a rookie who didn't do anything and showed no flashes. I am pretty sure that a base prism Keontae George is going to be a junk slap, as will his pink ice and green prism. Like, you go through this list. James Najee, who is that? Jalen Wilson, what? Jalen Pickett, who? Like, what is this list of people? Like, Grady Dick, are we being serious right now? Harrison Barnes, someone sending in Hakeem Olajuwon from 2023 Prism. Like, I can go on and on and on, right? But you kind of get the point as to how we end up with these numbers. 17% of cards, 16% of cards being sent in PSA and then being sold on eBay a few months later for less than the value of the grading fee. That's how we get it. It's through this type of stuff. Like, when I saw this list, I was flabbergasted. Like, who or what is a leaky black? You know, we're sending in Marquise Noel cards. What is this? Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent here, and now we bring it back to this list. So it seems like for new releases, roughly 15% of cards aren't even worth grading that are being sent in PSA. And I went through this list for Panini Prizm basketball, but that is just one main product. It doesn't include inserts. It doesn't include autographs of one sport. There are so many different products in each sport, and there are multiple sports. And you could see a world where all of these types of cards add up over the different parallels and products and sports, that 15 to 20% of cards being sent to PSA shouldn't be sent to PSA. Like, that's, I don't know how else to think about it other than that. Like, from what I'm seeing here, or at least 15% of the cards that are sent to PSA and then immediately listed on eBay should not be sent in. Maybe you are a super fan, you're a collector, and you aren't listing these on eBay. Sure, that's fine. This is for your own PC. Knock yourself out. Have a ball. Go nuts. Go crazy. But people who are sending it to PSA and then immediately sending it to eBay are not doing it for their PC. They're doing it to try to make money. And 15% of submissions, 17% of submissions are failing spectacularly. And so I guess that partially explains why this number is so high. It's that a good chunk of new releases are being sent to PSA for grading, and they shouldn't be. That's just, there's no other conclusion other than to draw. Like 15% of cards listed on eBay from new products, you're gonna lose, are leading to money losses or money losers. Again, I was expecting a number 5-6%, maybe 10, but like 1 in 6 cards being listed on eBay from new products is a money loser is crazy. But here we are. So that partially explains the large PSA numbers. If 1 in 6 cards being listed on eBay are money losers, well, then that kind of explains why so many cards are being sent to grading and why I got this prediction wrong. Because I would have assumed that people are logical and care about their money, but clearly not. That's at least part of the reason why this number continues to grow and grow. Hey, so shout out to PSA for being able to convince people to send their cards into them no matter what. Hey, that's part of their secret sauce, I suppose. Anyways, that's the video. I am starting to ramble, so let's cut it short. Thank you always for listening and watching. I'll talk to you all soon. Cheers.